He doesn't hold grudges, but he does remember, which is why I told him. No, I need it. I really need it tonight. He can remember a lot. With movies like Young Frankenstein and Blazing Saddles, Mel Brooks turned chaos into art. He has been making people laugh, so hard they cry for almost 60 years. But behind every laugh was a quiet force of control, a man who knew how to run humor. During his time as a filmmaker, Brooks worked with many actors, from famous to strange to impossible to find. Some people who came to his set thought they were more important than the movie. Others didn't do what he said, and some even forgot their lines. For Mel, that was enough. If you put your name on a blacklist, it would stay there forever. He never screamed. The door wasn't shut. He took you out of a story without saying anything. All of the movies, even the producers and Spaceballs, were wake-up calls. Brooks has the power to change history or erase you from it at any time. Mel Brooks has been quiet for a while, but he's ready to speak up now. He is being honest about who they are, how tense things got on set, and the betrayals that almost caused his projects to fail. Mel will always think of 5 great artists, but not those who made music. He is also giving them names for the first time. What faces did Mel Brooks say made him say never again? Which stars were too proud to stay but bright enough to shine? Do not stop reading until the very end. What you will learn may change how you see some of Hollywood's most famous stars. Gene Wilder wins first place. Some betrayals are done by people you don't know. The person who hurt Mel Brooks the most was a friend. Nobody else was an actor like Gene Wilder. His thoughts set him on fire, just like Brooks's did. They did more than laugh together. They changed what it means to be funny. Movies like Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles, and The Producers. Not every one of them worked out. There was a big change. But something changed with Young Frankenstein. Most of the story for that movie was written by Wilder. Brooks had worked hard to make it black and white, shape it, and keep it together. It looked like lightning in a bottle. A favorite right away. However, there was already a crack in the screen. Also, Wilder was very excited about writing the adventure of Sherlock Holmes' smarter brother. He wrote it, told Mel to make it, and planned to direct it. Brooks said no. He later said it was because Gene thought he was ready. Not because it wasn't funny or good in any way. I was sure he wasn't. Wilder thought that was not true. He had hoped that someone could help. Brooks didn't go up to him. That room was very quiet. Wilder still made the movie without him. Even though there was no beat, some of the musicians, like Madeline Kahn and Marty Feldman, seemed familiar. There was less of a flame between them. For a while, Wilder and Brooks didn't say anything. There was no fight and no news coverage, just a quiet breakup. 2 guys who used to finish each other's jokes were now going their separate ways. Brooks reportedly told a friend, "It was like seeing your brother leave, but he took your best joke with him." Not long after, they ran into each other again at an event neither of them had planned to go to. No one said sorry or made a comment. There are 2 old friends sitting in the same room. They might be thinking about how great their laughs used to sound. They didn't get back together or give a long reason, but instead, they shook hands, laughed, and seemed like old friends again. But there was still a crack. They never worked together again after that, because they were hurt, not angry. Brooks says that Gene Wilder was the only actor with whom he ever shared his unfinished stories. There was no reason for Gene to end a scene or character without a joke if he gave Wilder one. He seemed to already know where they were going. That faith never came back after Smarter Brother. Even though Mel Brooks was funny, he never let anyone leave the circle. That was Wilder's fault. In public, they were friendly, polite, and welcoming. The thing that held Brooks's inner world together, though, was rhythm, feeling, and loyalty. Gene Wilder broke those bonds. Just enough to leave a mark, not because they were mean. Because the person who knows you the best can lead you in the right direction sometimes. The second place goes to Frank Langella. Langella did lose more than just a part of the director, though. On paper, he looked great. That movie was Dracula, dead and loving it, which Brooks was made. Even better, Langella got great reviews for his role as Dracula on Broadway. Tall, good-looking, and exciting. Up until that point, everything seemed fine. What was wrong was that he was Dracula, or at least a scary version of him. When Mel Brooks said that, he didn't mean it. He didn't want to find a gothic tragedy or steps lit by lights for drama. He wanted people to be confused, do pratfalls, and make jokes very quickly. A vampire might be giving a speech 1 minute and trip over a torch the next. Frank Langella, on the other hand, started pre-production as if he were going to play Hamlet again. Right from the start, the tone was wrong. It took too long to get better. Brooks was moving less quickly. Most of the time, he ran his sets like a well-oiled machine. There was no answer from jokes to Langella. He didn't just try it. It was like they were holy works the way he spoke them, slowly, heavily, and without emotion. According to Brooks, he wasn't playing Dracula. He was being a good guy. Brooks tried to get him to change his ways by leaving him notes, nudges, and gentle pushes. It did not work out. Langella would keep doing the marble figure the same way after getting a polite nod. Things were getting tight behind the scenes. Langella only added weight, but Brooks needed speed. Long pauses slowed down scenes that were supposed to go quickly. The remaining group of veteran comic book artists and character players started to think again. Some people on the team asked in a whisper, "Is this a comedy or an opera?" And the show ended. Brooks gave Langella a new line during a test read. The famous plot twist by Brooks. A dramatic build-up leads to a silly ending. "I want to make it through." Langella blinked, stopped, and then asked, "Do you want me to make fun of the text?" Brooks gave him a long look and then said, "No." By the end of the week, he had quit saying. That was the last straw. There was silence, no yelling, no speaking out, and no scandal. In a different way, Leslie Nielsen was Dracula. He stuck to his morals, even when everything around him was falling apart. Brooks was interested in power, not weight. Nielsen got it done. Langella didn't do that, though. The change was called creative differences by the government. But everyone who worked on the show knew what was really going on. Shakespeare's statue was not going to be used by Mel Brooks to make people laugh. His goal was to find someone who got the joke before it became funny. Langella didn't do that. After he left the show, he didn't say anything else about it. Brooks was a good person who never said bad things about him in public. But Brooks never said Langella's name when talking about Leslie Nielsen in Dracula, dead and loving it. He just said perfect. In Brooks's world, artists could be put into two groups, those who made crazy people worse and those who were crazy themselves. Langella wore a crown when she walked in, but Mel wasn't acting like a queen. It was getting worse because of him. He also thought everyone should love the fall. The Chevy Chase is the third. Mel Brooks could feel energy like it was a sixth sense. He knew right away if someone fit into his world before he spoke or practiced a line. He felt obligated to turn down Chevy Chase's approaches. They never worked together at all. That wasn't a mistake either. It was done on purpose. Chase was a big deal in the 1980s and early 1990s. Studio managers put in a lot of work. He was a big name in American culture and had a great sense of humor. He said everything with a straight face. Brooks always stopped them, though. There was no doubt or talking. There was only a strong, quiet no. Mel Brooks didn't become well known. He put down confusion, rhythm, and trust that could be seen. Besides that, he quietly thought Chevy Chase would never be good at that dance. Why? Chevy Chase broke Mel Brooks' first rule because he didn't get along with other people. Brooks had heard about it on talk shows, in whispered business stories, and from friends who warned him not to work with them. Chevy was smart, quick, and funny. He could quickly shine light into a room and then take it away again. A casting director said that Brooks told them, "He's not acting." He could show that he is the smartest person in the room once everyone has finished talking. Brooks didn't want the smartest person there, though. It was important to him that people were kind and could laugh at jokes without letting someone else win. Chevy wasn't that. They were almost going to work together when they were both cast in Spaceballs. The dark helmet for Chase was called out. He had the right dry tone and face, and the beat was just right. Brooks didn't think about it, though. He was interested in seeing Rick Moranis. Chevy only knows how to cut you off. Rick knows when to step back. Brooks cared more about chemistry than getting noticed. It was very important to act quickly. Ego wasn't. He told Chase in private that instead of dancing with comedy, he crashed it. It came from too far away for him to like, but he admired the man's skill, intelligence, and wit, not worried and always happy. Brooks thought that irony didn't belong in humor. It was a matter of faith. No matter how silly the joke was, you had to live with it and mean it. In fact, Chevy didn't. They got together once. Short, nice, and forgotten right away. Chase never made it to Mel's, who ended with a half-smile and the words, "Maybe in another universe." Years later, Brooks talked about it briefly in an interview, being careful not to name anyone. He said, "Some actors are so self-aware that they forget to be present. They can be thought of while they are supposed to be in a scene." The host asked if he meant Chevy Chase. Mel just gave a smile and went about her day. Mel Brooks thought friendship was very important. There should be space between lines, a common beat, and an unspoken understanding that says, "Trust me, and I'll trust you." Chevy Chase didn't trust anyone, though. He had to win every argument because he was a very quiet and smart speaker. Brooks didn't want to win. He cared about the faith, time, flow, and balance of the group. Chase was not banned in the end. He was just left out. Even though he was funny, he didn't fit in. And people from outside Mel Brooks's world were welcome as long as they knew the beat. But cockiness that looks like confidence, that stayed close to the door. Harvey Corman is the fourth one. It was great to watch Harvey Corman on TV. When Brooks gave Harvey jokes, Harvey always told some of the funniest jokes of his career. This is the first part of world history, high anxiety and blazing saddles. Corman can make a funny face for just long enough to make you laugh out loud, and then he knows how to drop it perfectly. But there was stress, which Brooks didn't talk much about. It used to be that Corman was the link between every sketch on the Carol Burnett show. He was used to not having any rules, being able to improvise, having loose plans, and having a place that worked for him. But Brooks's plans didn't change. They were very well put together, more like a concert than a sandbox. There was a bigger rhythm to every line, answer, and pause. When someone got too off-key, it all fell apart. Even though Corman was very smart, he often got lost. Their fight was at its worst during high anxiety. Brooks made him into Dr. Montague, the cocky and scary head of the Psychoneurotic Institute, for the very, very nervous. Corman changed how the part looked. There are new lines, quirks, and sometimes whole rewrites. Brooks stopped it. He said, "We already wrote the funny part. All we need is for you to do it." Corman didn't like what she heard. Things got tense on set. He started waiting between shots to think about how to time and block them. Brooks started to talk over people who were talking. He often told jokes or made things up as he went along. There were a lot of quiet standoffs during what should have been an easy and fun shoot. During the show, Brooks told a producer, "Harvey wants to be the director, but I already have that job." By the last week, they hardly talked to each other. Later, crew members said it was like passive warfare, because there was no screaming or explosions, and they were always talking things out. Brooks had his helper hand him the notes. From take to take, Corman stayed by himself. Blazing Saddles no longer had the drive to sing. It was cold and stiff now. There was no longer any rhythm, jokes were forced, and trust was broken in a quiet way. That said, it still worked for the show. Harvey Corman would not have shown any signs of being stressed. Mel Brooks was perfect on screen, with perfect timing and performance, but he never forgot the path that got him where he was. After high anxiety, Corman's name was slowly taken off of future projects. Not because they are mad, but because they are worn out. In the end, Brooks would say it his own way. Some actors make a set fun. Harvey was very smart, but he had trouble getting things done. There was no fight in public and no official goodbye. Instead, they just knew that as a team, they had reached their fullest ability. Even so, Corman was happy with what they had done. Brooks didn't say for years that Corman hadn't affected his best movies, which was a good thing. Of course, the business deal was over. There was no longer any flow. When it came to Mel Brooks, rhythm was everything. He knew how to deal with crazy people. He was able to deal with divas, weirdos, and general chaos while wearing a mask. Brooks set a limit when working together turned into competing and laughing turned into fighting. He didn't want to win. He wanted to laugh. He left when the laugh became too expensive. Lewis's name comes in fifth. While Mel Brooks liked smart people, he hated cocky people. He saw both of them in Jerry Lewis. Both men were hired to do comedic work. They made fantasy worlds where chaos made sense. They both made, wrote, and acted in their own movies. They had hoped for a long time to put them together. It didn't happen. In private, Brooks liked the Nutty Professor and thought Lewis was brilliant and tiring. He didn't like the person who made it, but he liked the idea, the history, and the truth of it. Brooks's dark social satire Life Stinks is about a billionaire who has to live on the streets. It got really bad when casting was planned in the middle of the 1980s. Jerry Lewis was seen as the clear favorite. The company thought it was impossible for two famous comedians to work together on a project. But for Brooks, it sounded like a bad dream. A big supporting part had been offered to Jerry Lewis by the company. They said that it would make him look smarter and more important. But Mel Brooks didn't agree. He reportedly told his director, "I don't need someone who thinks he's funnier than the movie." Brooks knew that Lewis liked to change lines quickly, take over the performance, and fill the room with air. Brooks was not meant to share power on the set or in the editing room. They only met once. In order for them to work together, a friend of both of them set up a meal. Brooks showed up to look around. Lewis was talking about how American comedy has changed over the years for 15 minutes, while Mel sat across from him. Lewis barely looked at Mel. Brooks waited for a while to get in touch after hearing it, but it never did. After that, before dinner, he quietly left. The thought died that night. According to Mel later, he didn't want to work together. He only wanted to be appreciated. They stayed friendly in public, so there shouldn't be any comments or arguments. Crazy had a beat in Mel Brooks's world, and ego served the joke, not the other way around. He let the stars shine as long as they knew the universe wasn't centered on them. That wasn't the right place for Jerry Lewis, because his ego was too big and clear. Brooks joked, "When it comes to comedians, I don't hire the ones who think they're the star of the show. I have a boy already." That said it all. He never told anyone. Working with Jerry would have been nuclear. Not because of their lack of skill, but because of all the rewrites, blasts, and fights over who was in charge. It's too late, too loud, or too much. While Mel Brooks was far away, he looked up to this man. There was never a call, a scene, or even an offer. To be fair, even experts can be sent home if they start to see themselves on set. There was no need for Brooks to get mad or cause a scene. He just shut the door behind him. You were no longer part of the talk. Who do you think almost made this list? Or maybe they should have. Please write what you think in the space below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the channel for members-only deep dives if you want to see the next episode of Hollywood's Hidden Blacklist before anyone else. They didn't have enough trust, time, respect, or even knowledge of what was going on. And it was hard to get trust back from Mel once it was lost. Because getting cast wasn't the win in Mel Brooks's world. It was only the start.